everyone. Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining me here today. Most of you know that we're always here at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. So put that into your calendar. So you meet me here every Thursday. The only times we don't meet is on like a major holiday. So like the 4th of July landed on a Thursday, so we didn't go live that day. But that's when we're always going to be here with Live with Lisa or Stitch with Lisa or whatever we want to call it today. But I'm going to have a fun little couple little tutorials for you. So stay till the end. I'm going to put that on the end. But I have some announcements. And yes, I have been neglecting my announcements lately. So I'm going to do them all. All right. So stay tuned and hopefully something in here. I have some new ones, so they're not the same olds in here. So hopefully there's some new things in here that you can maybe participate in or join in on. All right, our featherweight club is August 5th. So bring your little featherweight out of its box and let's stitch on those. Then also on August 5th, we have the brand new Bernina Machine Sew Along Social. So if you are a Bernina owner and want to come and learn and hang out with other Bernina owners, come to this. And all of these clubs that are during the day also include lunch. And they are $25 across the board for all the clubs that I'm talking about. Sit and Stitch is August 6th. And the hours are usually almost always 9 to 4. Wool Club, August 7th. Cross Stitch Club, that is August 7th as well. So you see how we bump a few of them together. And then we also, August 19th, Joanne's Club Stitchers Gathering meets that day. And if you're looking for friendship group, that is the good friendship group. Not that any of the other ones are bad by any means, but this is a really tight group and they welcome new members. And especially if you're new and don't have a lot of people that you know, come and hang out with them and they will welcome you. Joanne is a true gem with that. All right, so now we have some other things coming up. We have some classes. So we have a Bernina educational opportunity here with making a dinosaur pillow. T-Rex they're going to make on August 20th from 9 to 4. So the class fee is $50 and that includes lunch. And then if you want us to put a kit together for you, that is only $20 as well. So please call the gathering and they will get you into that club or class. Then we also have a really cool event, rug hooking workshop, Monday, August 26th through the 28th. And this is with Susie Jankowski, who is a McGowan certified rug hooking teacher. And they're going to do this beautiful rug. She has it framed there. Did you know you could frame a rug? Isn't that cool? All right. So they are works of art too. And this is more of that genre of art versus how I kind of hook. I kind of hook primitive and kind of utilitarian for rugs or stuff like that. But this is truly art. She talks about shading and all those things that you need to know if you're into that really intricate, beautiful real life looking stuff. Like they do people pictorials. It's just amazing what you can do and what you can learn from them. All right. So that's like a 3-day workshop. And then we have another opportunity for Bernina people, Embroidery 101, because if you're like me, I don't know how to use my embroidery module. All right. I don't. Even sometimes I want to just, like stitch a name like Owen or Jace on something, but I don't know how to do that. So one of these days I'm going to get my butt in this class as well. So this one is $50. It is September 11th from 10 to 4. Come and join them for that. And then here's class 2 for the dinosaur pillow. So even though you took one, you still could take 2. The Triceratops. I remember all these because my boys were always into dinosaurs. September 17th is that one. And again, $50. Also a kit fee we can make for you if you want to get one of our kits. And then this is exciting to see, Purge and Splurge. The fall edition is going to be the 12th of October. Vendors, if you want to vend in this, you need to let us know. I believe it's $25 for a spot. And you can come in on Friday and set up for that. But this is a big thing for anybody who wants to come and shop. And usually there's lots of treasures at those things that you get super cheap. Like, girl, you know, some of us want to unload some of the things that we know we're never going to use or make. And doesn't mean they're bad or anything. It just means that we're probably not going to make them because our tastes have changed or we've moved on to something else. But doesn't mean that some of those kits and projects that we have or fabrics aren't good to somebody else, because our quilting journey kind of brings you along different paths, as you all know, right? Can you pump up my comments? So I forgot to mention that we do pick prizes for every one of our lives. So please leave some comments, and that's how we pick you as our winners. Heidi is over there writing down your questions for me and also picking winners for you. And that's how you're going to win. Okay. Then we also have cross stitch finishing, or like wool applique finishing. So if you want to learn how to finish some of your projects very uniquely, this is the class for you. Just $150. It's a 2-day class from 9:30 to 4:30 each day. And then you will go home inspired on how to do some different things besides just putting it in a frame. And then we have Linda Hershka coming. I just talked to Linda today. She's super excited about all what's going on in her life. November 15th through the 16th from 9 to 4, a 2-day class. If you are into long arming and maybe you want to learn how to custom long arm, because that is all the rage. Everybody wants their quilts done custom. Linda is your teacher, all right? She goes through every aspect of the quilting process, like when she looks at your quilt, how she determines what you're going to quilt, all those things, what threads to use, what battings to use, how to execute. Everything is there for you in this class. So don't be afraid to do that. Then we have, this is a new one. Join us for the Jingle Ball at Primitive Gathering. So every year, cross stitchers do a cross stitch gathering, and it's called the Jingle Ball. And they get together and they participate kind of like in a retreat online. And we are going to host one here at Primitive Gathering, so people can come here and stitch and hang out and join in on the Jingle Ball. I hope I did that right, because that's how I remember it, but there is more information there that Kaylee has shown there for you. Or if you have any questions about that, you can always call Peggy, Barbara, or Lori at the gathering. Then we have the quilted coat coming up. All of our dates are set for that. So lots of them there to choose from. Again, some of the questions we've had on the coat is, do you have to have an antique? No, you can make your quilt if you want. It can be brand new. It can be whatever you want. It could be just 2 fabrics quilted together. It doesn't matter what you want to use. We are going to help you get it fitted for your body type. And then you will, by the end of the 2-day class, probably should be hand stitching your binding, if not totally all the way done. So that is a super fun class. That's why we have a lot of interest in that. That's why we have 3 different times you can come to that. And then we also have our blue and white quilt show that we want to remind you about. The deadline to have your quilts here is October 31st, so they can be a part of our Primitive Christmas event. And there's nothing like seeing your quilt hang beautifully at the gathering. So we love, love, love to have your quilt hang in our show. And there's prizes, money prizes, as well as fabric prizes for that we give out. And ribbons. You will get a ribbon for that as well. And guess what? We're already making them. We're ahead of the game. I have an awesome staff. So anything pertaining to clubs and classes that was there, if you have any questions on them, maybe put it in the feed and we can answer some of them there. But speaking about some of the things going on here, do you know that we have subscription boxes here at Primitive Gatherings? So we have a wool subscription that goes out 6 times a year, the odd months, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. And then we also have quilt boxes that go out on the even months. So, and those are 6 months as well. So we're getting down there. I'm working on the very, very last block for Fresh Cut Garden, but I want to address a little issue we had with the July Fresh Cut Garden pattern for Fresh Cut Garden. It is a little too big. And thank you for letting us know that. And Terry thinks she figured out why it happens sometimes, and it has something to do with the things that overhang and how it just kind of resizes, and she doesn't notice it. But here's an option for you. So for Fresh Cut Garden, if you are current and you want the layout, it is already on our on our Stitch with Lisa Bongean group, right? Or in PG Woolbox. So if you go to Facebook, type in PG Woolbox. If you're not already a member, you can join that. And it's for the members who are in the box. We let everybody in. Okay. We're not going to monitor it like that, but there's where you can ask questions. Let us know if you need anything there. But this is where we found out about this block being a little bit too big. And the thing is the block layout, which I can't show you this one, but this is a block layout. It looks like this. Like, you can't see it. But anyway, this is too big. The shapes are not. The shapes are the correct size. So we put a PDF in PG Woolbox that you can print. However, I get that some of you don't have the capability to print, right? And you paid to get this pattern. So if you want your pattern right away and you can't download it yourself and print it yourself, we will gladly put a stamp on an envelope and send your pattern in the mail to you. All you have to do to get that is to type in store at Primitive Gatherings, and we will send that to you, and just tell them what you need. However, if you're not caught up and you do not need that right away, we're going to put a new version in every box that goes out in September. So if you don't need it right now because you're not there yet, your September box will have that printed layout in it. So I hope that all makes sense. And if you have any questions, please put them in the feed. All right. So we apologize for that. It's crazy because, Terry makes it for me. I make my block from that. So I test it when I do it. And then I go over later on and put all my threads in. So we don't know, and what's funny is we've been checking every one, and then we're like, okay, everything's right now. And then the one we probably didn't check was a little big. So thank you for your patience and understanding on that. We really appreciate that. Okay, so that is that. A couple things I want to talk about, and most of the meat of this live is going to be about Dear Santa. I'm going to do some stitching tutorials on that. I'm going to talk about interfacings. I'm going to talk about quilting, and I'm going to talk about thread bleeding, a bunch of things. Okay, but that's coming up. So let me just tell you a couple other things that are happening. We are getting down to the wire on our limited edition mug for 2024. So please get that ordered. So you make sure you secure yours, because we are not going to go back and order more. We also, what was I going to say about that one? I don't know. I forgot. Okay. Sneak peek here at your Christmas in July box. So this will be going out in August coming up. So we just have a few minor little things to do on this yet, and then these will be shipping out. But isn't it pretty? Didn't Terry do a beautiful job on the box? All right. And the girls in shipping wanted me to let you know that if you did not pre-order this yet, it's taken down right now. So you can't, right now you can't go on and order it because you forgot. All of our pre-orders are done. Now, if you want this box yet, when we put it back on the site, it's going to be a little bit more money because you didn't pre-order. We like to reward people for pre-ordering, but it will go back on. So if you did miss it, it's only temporary. We will let you know when it goes back on the site. And this is the one where they can do a wool box, a quilt box, or both, right? So you have 3 options with this box. All right, I'm moving right along. Do we have any questions before I talk about more stuff?
I have a bunch. It might be something you're about to talk about. You want me to read them anyway?
If it has anything to do with Dear Santa, wait.
Okay. What is the name / color of the wool used in the new snowman pillow?
Dirty Snowman.
This is a quiz.
Which snowman pillow?
I don't know.
The one I did for Naughty or Nice with the reindeer?
That I'm not sure.
Need more information, but it is Dirty Snowman I used for that.
Okay. What is your favorite Valdani size? I was going to build my stash, but don't know what I should start with.
You're safe with 12. I like 8s. Like right now, I am stitching. I'll give you a little peek here. I am stitching this flower right here. See how little it is? I'm showing you the back side. All right. Oh, you can't zoom. You can't zoom because we're going to do a video and the zoom camera is right here. But this flower is only this big, and I'm using an 8. All right. So right away, you know what you love. Like if you don't like to see the thread, a 12 weight is your best. However, 8s and 5s are great for the embellishing, like the stem stitching or the little details you're going to add. Or if you're just going to stem stitch a vine, you want that to be a 8 for sure, or a 5, or double your 8. But when you double a thread, you're actually using twice as much. So you got to kind of remember that. So the question is, you should have them all colors and all sizes if you can afford it. If you cannot, which I totally get, all right? I totally get. Your safest bet would be an 8. All right, if you're going to nail me down to 1, I'd say 8s. But then you can't do really teeny tiny stuff. So just saying. All right, good question.
All right. Are we able to use our own fabric for the Scandinavian so-long?
Yes. You're just going to download the patterns. You know me. I'm willing to give you or let you participate even if you don't want to use my fabric.
Okay. You showed the ribbon quilt that Alicia did with American Gatherings layer cake. Is there any special instructions to convert that pattern?
Convert it to what?
That's the question.
It was a jelly roll.
It was a jelly roll, and you want to convert it to a layer cake? 2.5-inch strips.
Okay.
A little more information. Give Heidi a little bit more information about that. I don't know what you mean by convert. Be a little clearer, maybe.
I think she wants to use a layer cake instead of a jelly roll.
Oh yeah, I think it definitely can be done.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you do your cutting, you're just going to have to you would, instead of using the long strips, you're going to be using a layer cake. So it's the same amount of fabric in there. And remember, your layer cake is going to shrink one way versus the other way if you're starching. If you don't starch, no worries. And I've noticed, have you noticed, Jess, that some of our pre-cuts are just a smidge bigger? I have. Yeah. So even when I start, sometimes I still have 10 inches.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe you still should be able to do that.
Okay. What are the names of the snowman pillows next to you?
I don't know. This one is,
That wants to know, so we gotta tell her.
well, Jess will look. We need names. We got a book somewhere.
Okay, and so then this question I get a lot. It is about, can you do this class as a Zoom class? Can you do that? People are always wanting Zoom classes. So can you touch on where we are with our goal of having
Hey,
Zoom
Sue,
classes?
are you listening?
Sue,
Am I listening?
you're being
Sue?
paged for live television.
What?
One of the things you can put on your list is when we do a class that we have people participating via Zoom.
Oh.
So we would need somebody who is proficient in Zoom and can handle and teach people when they can't get on and all that. So because I won't be able to know how to do that.
Okay.
And then we could broaden our classes. We could have a retreat. We could do naughty and nice, and we could have people participating who aren't even there.
Right. Get us into the
So
20th century.
yes, get us into, yeah, 20.
We're not even in the 20th century though, because Zoom was there.
Yes. All right. So see, I just went to the person who's in charge of all of the operations. So hopefully she'll get on it.
Yes, I'll get on it. Zoom. Frosty
All right.
morning.
Frosty Morning is this one?
Yep.
Frosty Morning.
And Barb was the name.
Baby, it's cozy inside. And something and friend.
Snowman and reindeer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Frosty and Friends or something like
Frosty and friend, I don't know.
Your friend.
Reindeer friends?
Winter.
Winter friends. You know what? That is the hardest thing to do, is to name things. So if you're really good at it, me and you should become buddies, because I'll just text you and say, hey, name this. Because it's the worst thing that we have to, I think it's the hardest thing that we do, is to have to name things, especially after your 4th snowman line and you have to come up with things. So yes. You want a sneak peek of something quick? You can't really see it. It's a new fabric line. I can show you it, but I don't really want to talk about it yet because it's not on our website yet. But we'll get it there. We'll get it there. But these are all backgrounds. My favorite, I think it's like 9 or 10 backgrounds that we did with Moda. So that you'll be seeing a lot of that. So I just saw it sitting here and I thought I would just, you know, do what I do and let you know some things that you may not know yet. All right. So any other questions quick?
Not for now.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Scandinavian Christmas. All right. So I shot a video on how to do the first set of blocks. So that is there. So here's the first set. I have all 7 of them done now because I saved one to do the video with. So this is our first set of 7 blocks. They are 10.5 inches. And I'll give you a peek at number 2, but I'm not really going to show it, but I'm going to show you a peek. So number 2 is bigger. Number 2 row is 12-inch blocks. So we only have to make 6. So that was just a little sneak peek as well. And what we kind of do is we use the bundle, and we're using the reds and then the creams with the red print. We're using them kind of on the inside of the blocks, and then we're coming out to the outside with the porcelain, with our background. So we have, in each block, we use a background, a red, and a cream with red print. So if you're not using my fabrics, those are some things that maybe you could look for, or do your own thing. I'm sure that you'll do it fantastic. I know I have so many talented customers that love to do their own thing, and we really love seeing that as well. So don't feel like you can't do your own thing. All right, this one will come out. Do you remember when these release? Oh, I got it right here. Sorry. I'm like, Jess, where's all the info? And here it is. Okay, so just quickly about the Scandinavian Christmas, we have a bundle of fabrics for you that are for the blocks. And they are $215, and it's 15 yards of fabric, and it does include the panel. So if you new here today and have no idea what I'm talking about, this new quilt along that it's going to start August 15th is like a row quilt, right? But we wanted to do it where you could insert Mr. Claus in the middle of it and still do the row quilt. So there's 2 options, technically 3 options, because you could do the quilt as we make it, which Alicia is doing it with the panel and then with the blocks. I am doing it all rows, no Santa in mine. So I have to make more blocks. And then I'm probably going to do some different spacing between my blocks and between them this way as well, because I want a king size quilt for my bed. I've always wanted a red and white block quilt for my bed at Christmas time. Or you can do it just as we made it with the rows as is, putting them right together, nice and tight. And it's probably going to be somewhere without a border, 72 by 84. If you put them right tight together, because if you do the math, 12 times 7 is 84. Wait a minute. That block is going to be bigger than that. So 72 is wrong, right? If I have, no, they're 10-inch blocks. 10 times 7, 72. Yeah, that's about right. Because there might be a little border on there. Okay, we're figuring it out here as we go. There is a triangle pack of paper that you also can purchase for this. And this is all of the different size triangle papers that you're going to need for the whole quilt, plus a few extra, just as a little insurance. There also is a background option. You are going to need about 5 yards for the blocks. And then if you want to do borders, you're going to need additional border fabric for that. So you can pick Bella that we are using. So 9900182 is the Bella porcelain that matches my fabrics. So that's an option for you as well in the drop down. Okay, so I'm sure some of you are tired of hearing about that quilt along, but it's the next best thing. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows everything they need to know about that. All right, questions?
Well, geez, I wasn't listening that well, so they might be repeats. But did you talk about a stabilizer behind the Santa panel?
Coming up.
Okay. And when stitching the Santa and there is a short line, do you finish off your thread or travel underneath with the red thread?
I will travel underneath. I'll weave my thread to the next place I can stitch. If it's only little, right? So, but if it's like if you're stitching here and you end there, I have nothing to weave through to get to these other spots. So that's when you would end. However, if I stitch down this line, I could possibly travel that, but most of the time not. But here you could travel. So it's up to you. You will see red thread underneath that. Okay. Oh, you kidding me? I gotta go off camera to do this.
An intermission song. Haley.
All right, put my breast down. All right. Whew. I was sweating there for a minute. Okay, we got a good battery now, right? Is that what the problem was? All right, any more questions before we start stitching and talking about the Santa panel? Nope. All right, I do want to let you know there is no comment sold after today's live. When will the next one be, Jess? Monday. So mark your calendar, Monday, 10, 11, 10 o'clock. Comment sold. It is so hot in the warehouse right now. Like we're all sweating. Even the air conditioner, I'm actually really hot right now. So was it not in a good spot? Oh, I have it buried. Hang on. These are the weirdest things. There, is that better? Okay. I tucked it inside. I didn't see that. Okay, just a minute. I got to quit sweating here for a minute. So, is everybody enjoying the Olympics? Are you stitching? I am. I'll give you a little peek what I'm stitching. So speaking of panels, I'm not going to show you because I can't yet. But these are all the 5-weight threads I'm stitching with right now on a new panel. So if you can kind of think about what colors these all are, you can kind of figure out what I'm working on. All right. But I just love stem stitching while listening or watching, mostly listening, and when you want to see the score, you watch the routine and then while they're waiting for the results to come up and they're showing all the whatever, then that's when you're stitching. And then during the routine, you stop and watch or the race or whatever you want to talk about it. But I just love the Olympics and I think we're doing pretty good so far. But, all right. It is Dear Santa time. Let's talk about Dear Santa because everybody is getting their kits right now and their panels and their fabrics and they have some questions. So I have compiled some questions, but please feel free to ask some more in here while we're talking about this. All right, so this is the panel right here. And This is the one from the shop that they have as a sample. And if somebody wants to know how to stitch it, the girls will right on the floor here stitch for them. So I went and grabbed this one, and I'm going to show you how to do the stem stitch here. And then I'm going to show you how to fill in the eyeballs, because some people have questions about the eyeballs and how you just keep going around and doing that. But I need a pillow, so that's why I asked for a pillow here today. Okay, now I do not put fusible interfacing on the back of this to start. You can, however, if you wish to, you can do that right from the start. I choose not to because I don't like things stiff while I'm stitching. I don't want that layer in there. I do put it on after I'm done. Like after I'm done stitching, I will turn around my piece and I will look and to see if I have any tails hanging out or anything like that, and make sure everything is clean and as neat as possible. Then I will iron on my fusible interfacing, which is SF101 is the one I use, is a Pellon. That's what I iron on, and you just read the instructions on how hot your iron can be. But most of the time, what I do is, because I'm too lazy to change the setting on my iron, I will lay it down and I'll iron it from the top, from the fabric side, and catch the fusible underneath. I don't like to iron on the fusible interfacing, but you can, all right? You just got to lower the setting on your iron. But always turn it over and go back over and stitch from the front side. So I do it after I'm done stitching and before I trim to the size it needs to go on the quilt. I do have a couple options in here. This is a single pattern, all right? This is called what? Do you know what this one is called? Christmas, Santa is coming? Santa is coming. This is a single pattern on our website. And it's just using one block here. So this is the block right here, like this broken dish block. Easy, easy, very nice. If you want a couple other options on what to do with your panel, we have another simple quilt here called Countdown to Santa's Visit. So it's just some half square triangles here with a big fat wide border, and then more border out here with Santa in the middle. And then we also have another one called Dear Santa, I Can Explain. So that one has a lot more patchwork and piecing in it as well. So we have 3 options available for this panel and more to come. Trust me, we're still working on more things for that. All right, so a couple things I want to talk about. The thread that I use and really, really recommend. I don't want you to use 6 strands of floss. I don't want you to take an 8 and double it. All right. The reason why this one is so good is because the strands are not going to separate while you're stitching. You don't have to deal with floss is really hard. This is a 5-weight thread. And to me, it's like almost stitching with all 6 strands of the floss. That's how thick it is. And it will cover beautifully. And the stitches are beautiful as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. And it's variegated and hand dyed. And Valdanis are color fast. Okay, so Valdani is color fast. DMC and a couple of the other ones, the hand dyed ones, I don't think are. So that is one of the things that I really want you to use this thread. And we have tons of these balls. We ordered like 3,000 balls because it takes like 2 to 3 balls to do this, depending on how thick, how tiny or big you stitch. It's going to make a difference because I used every bit of 2 balls to do this. Okay. All right. And it is number 50775. And that is the thread that I'm going to use. And then you're going to want to use a 22 chenille needle. All right. So you want a bigger needle, easy to thread, easy to stitch with. And you are going to absolutely love doing this. I know some of my people are doing 3 of these for each one of their grandkids. So they are stitching away on it. All right. So I talked about the thread, right? I talked about the fusible interfacing. Okay, so here, let's talk about this next. Now, we're going to switch cameras. All right, so if you want to come up close to me, Kaylee, and then we will talk about some things close. All right, so I was going to scoot over here so we could talk a little better and you could see this. All right, so when you have a new ball of Valdani, I kind of roll it around in my hand to see if I can find like a thread that's sitting on top. And it's really easy with the 5 weights because they're really kind of clunky. And sometimes you just have to like put your needle underneath it and pull it to the side and it comes out. This was a brand new ball that I just pulled from the shop. Now, when you do this, when you're first learning, please don't, do, a wingspan of thread. Do a good, 24 inches until you get used to your thread. Then you can go a little bit bigger. Okay, so where's my thread here? I want to show you how to thread the needle. All I do is loop that thread around my finger, and then I take the eye of the 22 and I park it directly center on that thread. And I let go of everything else but the needle holding down the thread. And I'm going to press down on the needle while I just move my finger back. And the thread has nowhere to go but in the needle. You see that? And then I can pull it through. So that's a quick way to easily thread your needle. And then you're going to put a quilter's knot in the end. Now, I've stitched 2 of these panels already. And first I thought about weaving all my threads through. And that was really good until I realized that some of my threads unweave themselves a little bit. So I went back to knots. So I can make this big knot in here and then clip it nice and close so I don't have any tail on it. And that's what I am going to use. So I want to stitch, first off, I'm going to just stitch some stem stitching here. So I'll quickly rethread this one that's already in the line here. And again, I'm right-handed. So if you're left-handed, you're going to throw the thread the same way. You're going to go counterclockwise no matter what. So keep that in mind because you want this stitch to look like a twisted braided rope, not a tight wire. So I put my thread in and I'm just going to stitch about 1/8 inch back. I'm going to insert back and I'm going to come out right where the last stitch was, the same hole. I'm going to snug and then I'm going to bring it around 1/8 inch to the hole and bring it around. So this is the stem stitch. Now I know some diagrams have you go halfway. You need to go all the way to that previous stitch. And then you can see how beautiful this works. Now try not to go too big, 1/8 of an inch at the biggest. And look at how beautiful that looks. Look at how it covers. But look at how the pattern looks without stitching. You easily could just use this as the pattern as is. You do not have to stitch this. So if you're not a hand stitcher, it does not mean you can't do this panel. It just means you're just going to put it in and use it as is. But it's one of those things that you can't stop doing. You just want to keep doing. All right, so let's say I'm going to end. I'm going to come down. I'm going to flip to the back side here. Oh, here we go. And then I'm just going to come into that last stitch and make a loop. I'm going to go in the loop once and pull it. That's kind of a half of a knot. And then what I did is then I went through and wove my tail through a couple of the last stitches. And then I'm going to clip it. Okay. So that will line up in there. It always seems to, after a while, kind of shorten up. So that's why I left that little bit of tail on there, because it will shorten up. And that's why I learned that when I wove my tails through and didn't put a knot in them, they would unweave themselves and then some of it would stick out. Okay, any questions on stem stitching?
Could you try to do the stem stitching on just a plain piece? Because it's a little hard to see like how far up you go and down when it's with the red on red.
I got it. Okay, here we go. So we're going to come up, we're going to pull it back, and we're going to go about 1/8 of an inch to that last stitch. So I swing it around, 1/8 of an inch away, I insert, and I come out right there. If you are going to miss short. Don't go into the thread. And then swing it around. So hopefully this helps you easily see it a little more. And then you can kind of see exactly what I mean by a rope twist. So see how that's twisting? Now I'm going to show you something. What if I swung it the other way? And yes, there are people that say, oh, I swing it this way for a concave and this way for a convex. I do it the same way every time. And I'm just going to get a couple more in there, and hopefully this will look. All right, so it does have a different twist to it. You can't, like, I want to see if you can get close up. So this looks like a braid. This looks like a tight, like a wire that's been pulled tight. So this is like smooth, and this looks like a French braid almost. So I hope you could see that there. All right, now I know this is going to be hard to see, especially since you just told me, but how do you stitch this? How do you stitch his berry? I don't want to say berries. Oh, yeah. Oh, this one has the knot on that one side already. A rethread. So what I do is I start on the outside edge. And I will just keep stitching while I fill this in, and we can talk. So do you have any questions while I can answer while I'm stitching? Lots of questions. Good.
In regard to that red and white quilt that you're making for your bed,
Yep.
you have a pattern for it available.
It'll be download for $5 every 2 weeks, and they will stay up. They won't go more expensive. They will always be $5 for each of the weeks. And you will go to our website to get those, Scandinavian Christmas, and you'll do a download, or you could buy a printed pattern as well. We'll have an option for those who need a printed pattern and don't want to print their own. I got a knot.
Okay. I have 2 primitive Christmas layer cakes from last year. Would that be enough for the Scandinavian sew-along box? I know I still need my background.
What's primitive Christmas bundles?
Joyful Gatherings.
Oh, Joyful Gatherings? We need a lot of yardage. So the bundle for the quilt along is like 1.5 yards of this, 2 yards of that, 2.5 yards of that. A lot of 1.5s, like one red is a fat quarter. So there's a lot of different, so you can try to make it work, but I can't guarantee you. And the problem with that is there's not a lot of that fabric around left over if you would need more. So that's one of the things I would be a little bit leery about. But if you want to scrap yours up and use red and green in it, it might be fun. So I don't ever want to tell you no, but I just want you to be aware of what we did put in ours. Okay, so I've gone completely around the outside perimeter. And now I'm just going to start, here I go, back up. So I'm completely around. And now I'm just going to start stitching right next to the previous stitching. And you just, my thread is twisted here a little bit here. Just put it in there like that.
Hey Lisa, do you starch the panel before you stitch?
Great question. I do not starch the panel.
All right. And then how do you wash the quilt once it's done? Is it machine washable with the hand stitching?
Great question. Okay, let me talk about that as well. I want to make sure I got all the other questions too. How are you quilting it? And about quilting over the face, the Santa face, and ruining the stitches. All right, so those were a couple of the questions that I got off of the Instagram post that we posted. So let me address those while I'm stitching here. You should not have any issues if you're using the Valdani floss. However, when I'm washing red and white together, anytime, I'm going to throw in a color catcher or two if it's a huge quilt as an insurance policy. All right, you can definitely do that. Or if you're really scared, hand wash it in cold water and do it that way so you can control it and see it every step of the way. Let me see what else. Quilting. So you have a couple, if you look here at the Santa that we had on the wall, we'll go to that right here. We have used an overall quilting pattern on it, and it goes beautifully right over the stitching. So if you can see that, I'll kind of, does that help or no? No, huh? There, flat is better. Oh, there you go. We dimmed the light a little bit there on it. So you can see it goes right over the top of everything. And we use invisible thread in our machine when we quilt these. So that's why you're not seeing red thread here or white thread here. It's an invisible thread. So that's one of the things you might want to consider if you are quilting. You might want to use an invisible thread. You don't have to do fancy stuff on here. If you want to quilt this at home on your own machine, just do a diagonal grid with Aurifil invisible thread. And then also, I saw a question on there that I wanted to, a hoop. I do not use a hoop. I am so used to stitching with my hands this way and manipulating my fabric, being able to, move my fabric. You can't really do that in a hoop. You can, but it's a whole different feel than what you're used to. So if you're a cross stitcher and you want to stem stitch in your hoop, you can do it. There are no right or wrong answers to some of these questions. And what I'm giving you is just how I would do it. So I'm going to flip to the back side here because I only have this much thread left. So I'm going to come into some of my other stitches, make that loop, pull that tight, and then bury my tail and then clip. Remember how I save all my triangles from half square triangles when we clip them off? I started saving all my ends of threads and putting them in a jar too, and it looks so cool.
So can the Santa panel be antiqued after stitching with Valdani? Hardwell water is not white quilt friendly. So
I have hardwell. I mean, so you don't soften your water? Hand wash it. I don't know. I don't know what to, or go use a friend's house who doesn't have hard water. Go to the laundromat. I don't know. That's above my, you know what I mean? Like that's a chemical question. Yeah. So if your water is really orange and rusty, I mean, I have that too. I have a well, but mine is softened, so I don't notice it in anything. But I never really thought about that. That's kind of weird, that's a good question.
I have the tool that winds two threads together. Can I use a large eye needle and then embroider with that?
So you got the Kreinwick twister, like and then you want to embroider with that after you make that? I would say no, but try it and let me know if it works. But I ain't gonna do it because you're twisting two threads together, and unless they're super tightly twisted together like thread is, I wouldn't think it would be twisted tightly enough together. But hey, prove me wrong. I would love to see that.
can you explain what a quilter's knot is?
A quilter's knot is where you would just take wherever you want your knot to be on the end, you would cross it over, wrap it around. That's the knot. So you'd hold that into your fingers and pull it through, and that's called a quilter's knot. Y'all can do that. Most people know that, so I sometimes forget to teach people that.
What size of a needle do you use when you are making, is it colonial knots?
So colonial knots, they can be made with chenille needles. However, the best needle for any knot is an embellishing needle. So an embellishing needle is the same circumference from point to the end of the eye. So most needles come down and then they widen out where the eye is. An embellishing needle goes straight down like a cylindrical shaft. Therefore, when you're pulling your knot through, your needle through your thread while you're making your knot, it glides through nicely. It doesn't have to squish where the eye of the needle is. So I would say an embellishing needle that we have here at Primitive Gatherings is the best thing for that.
All right, what else we got here? Will you show how you tie your knot in slow motion?
Sure, but let me get there. I'm almost there. I'm almost to the middle. But you see how easy this is just to keep stitching next to your previous stitches? I'm getting to the middle here, so I got to swing around a little bit.
Do you use a thread conditioner?
I do not use any thread conditioners. However, if you want to, go ahead.
Okay. What weight is the Aurifil invisible thread that you like to quilt with?
It's just invisible. There is no weight that I know of. They only have one kind, and you can get it in smoke or clear. So smoke you would use on dark fabrics, and clear you would use on light fabrics. So see how I have that stitched all the way around? See how easily that went and filled that in? So now I'm going to go to the back, and this is what you want, slow motion. All right. All right, so I'm going to pull it tight. I'm going to get really close. And then I'm just going to grab a thread from a previous. I'm going to make a loop. And then I'm going to go through the loop so it makes a knot. And then I'm just going to bury my tail. And I'm just going to bury it, this one, just right across to the outer edge. And just give it a clip. Then I can clip my tail, my start here. This is my start. I'm going to clip that right close to the knot. Usually I do that right away, but sometimes I forget. So there is my, from the back side, there's my little knot there. So there's that. And then there from the front side. So you can see how it's all filled in. All right. And then I want to show you a bonus tutorial. All right, so as you go and you stitch and you stitch and you stitch, this disc right here, which tells you your weight and the size, is going to come out. It's going to fall out. So if you take your needle and you poke in and kind of make a little bit bigger hole, because this is a 5-weight thread, so you want a nice bigger hole on each side of that word color fast, and then you thread. Don't cut this. Don't cut it as I reach for my scissors to cut it. You know, automatically. All right. So I'm going to thread a needle, and then I'm going to come up and then down on the other side. And then one more time. So 1.5 times you're going to go in here like this. So now what we have is when I need to pull thread off my ball, I just take this disc and I pull it down and then I cut. And then when I'm done, I can park this disc right on my ball like that. And then I wind this up a little bit. And then now that disc will always stay with your ball and you won't lose your color. When you need more, you just move it down and clip. So that's your little bonus tutorial for today. Hopefully some of you didn't already know that. But that's a fun little thing to do. And I want to talk a little bit about threads because I got a lot of new people hand stitching all of a sudden. So one of the things you need to be aware of, besides the fact that there's different weights and they're used for different things, is that, you know, you're only going to use certain balls all the way through. Most of my thread I've had since from the beginning, but I use a lot of green, I use a lot of red, and a little bit of brown. You know, so I've replaced like a lot of brown. But those ones are the ones that you're really going to use a lot of. Your box of thread is going to last you a long, long time. Unless you're doing something like this with one color, all right, then you're going to go through the balls. But for the most part, you are not going to empty a lot of purple. You're not going to empty a lot of all those other colors. So I think some people think that because a project asks for a bunch of thread that you're going to use all that thread. Yes, you are, but little of it, right? So does that make sense? Because I had a new person and they're like, oh my God, I'm trying to use this thread because there's no way I can afford all those threads. And I'm like, you know that a lot of those threads are used from block to block to block. So you might already have 3 of those greens from a previous block. We're not using different threads every time. Yes, there might be 1 or 2 new ones, but there's a lot of repeats. And you have to really stitch a lot of projects to go through every bit of that thread. So kind of keep that in mind when you're purchasing thread, okay? That you're going to have a lot of them for your whole life. All right. Any questions?
Where can they find this tutorial to watch it again if they want to?
Okay, it is always going to be here under this date, August 1st. Or I don't know, can you like clip some of this or not? And put it, or we'll do a new one too. Yeah, or she can put it under our tutorials for stem stitching featuring Dear Santa or something like that. I think she can go in there and hijack just the tutorial part of this. But I really wanted you to have an opportunity to ask me questions while I was doing it live, and to see how fast it goes and to see how easy it is, and perfect for on the road. So if you are a traveler and you are going in the car and you want to take a project with you, these panels are great for that. You know, because you only need your 1 color thread. You need your needle, you need your scissors, so you could pack it all in one little thing like this. But don't forget to use these if you have any kind of motion sickness. So these are the bands. They're called like motion sickness or seasick bands. So they go on your wrist like this, and they have this hard plastic here. And that goes on your wrist, on your pressure point. And if you have these on, and yes, I know they're not attractive. And yes, I've gone into the restaurant and eaten with these on. All right, because I forgot they were on. But I can stitch without wanting to puke my guts out. All right, because I'm not watching where we're going. I'm doing this. You know, so keep that in mind if you are one of those that suffer from that you can easily fix these. These are, I'll put an Amazon link on my blog at some point to those, or I think you can find them at Walmart as well. Okay. All right. What else we got? Besides picking winners for today.
Yeah, can you use an outline stitch on that project?
I don't really know what an outline stitch is. What's an outline stitch? Just like a back stitch? Just straight stitches? What's an outline stitch? I think an outline stitch is a stem stitch, really. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm outlining it.
So will the fabric requirements be provided prior to the start?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And is there a fabric bundle available that does not include the Santa panel?
Nope. Make 2 quilts if you don't want to use the Santa panel. Give that away to somebody else.
I thought maybe you could put it on the back. Like
Use it as the back. Border it and put it on the back. See, look at all those ideas we're coming up with you.
What threader works with the embellishment needle?
What?
Threader?
Hmm.
Anyone know?
I don't know. I don't use a threader.
Bueller?
I can do my little trick with the embellishing needle once in a while, not all the time. But I would just think one of those little wire ones.
And of course, we get this question a lot. What is the thread color for Santa?
For Santa is number 5, Valdani 0775. And you need at least 2. I would buy 3. And if you want to do the next one coming up, because once you do Santa, you're going to want to do Snowman too, because he's awesome. So this one, and I did his eyes the same way. This one is number 5, H207.
Outline stitch is basically the step stitch, only just a little different.
Okay.
It goes back up to the top.
Hmm.
So
I
it
don't know.
works.
So yeah, similar. I bet you they're cousins or something. I'll have to look that up when I go home. All right. So I hope you got to learn something new with how to keep your little disc with your ball. Those are some of the secrets I teach when you come to my class.
For today.
All right.
Lots of comments.
All right. Wow. That was an hour. Holy man.
And you didn't think you were
I can
gonna
talk
get
pretty
it?
good, can't I? The weight is 5 weight if you want to do a large stem stitch. And you will love to stitch with that thread. Honest to God. If you are one that are doubling just so you don't have to buy the 5, don't do it. Give yourself a break. Make your life easier and use 1 strand of 5 weight. Yes, 2 to 3 balls for sure. I would buy 3 balls for the snowman because I was digging in the garbage to find a few little strings to finish mine. Yay, Sharon, 2 quilts, 1 with the panel and 1 without. I love overachievers. All right. Okay. I'm going to pick some winners, and then we're all going to be stitching together during the Olympics, right? Okay. Winners today, I have 4. Are we generous today, huh? June Buckmeyer, Annette Martin, Pamela Edmonds, and Ann Becker. Please email Heidi N at Primitive Gatherings US, that it says there on the screen. And Heidi will send you a prize for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate you hanging out and asking all these questions, because if you have a question, somebody else might have that same question and they might not want to type and ask us because they're shy or something like that. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining us here at Primitive Gatherings, where every stitch tells a story.